It is 5:26 now, and we have some breaking news now. We've got a live look at the Occupy ICE protest on Southwest Macadam. There's a helicopter that's over that site right now, and protesters are being evicted right now. You can see all of the federal protective agents right there in their gear as they get ready to evict those protesters who have been there at the ICE facility right off of Southwest Macadam and Bancroft for nearly 2 weeks now. We were wondering when this was going to happen because ICE federal agents had gone in earlier in the week and they had taken out some of the items from the building, securing the building, as they say. So we had speculated that the effort to move them out would happen pretty soon, and it's happening right now. Again, this is a live picture. We just got a communication from the Director of Communications from the Federal Protective Service, and this is what it says. At approximately 5:30 a.m. today, it is 5:27 right now, federal law enforcement officers initiated a law enforcement action to reopen the federal facility at 4310 Southwest Macadam Avenue in Portland. You can see that there are agents that are on top of the building, on the overpass of the building there. The protesters don't look like they are moving at this point, but you can tell that they are getting ready. The federal agents are getting ready. Okay, now we have some of those protesters who are starting to pack up, it looks like, and leave. But you can see the federal agents getting ready to go in and move those demonstrators out.
Yeah, we saw one of them speaking on a megaphone, what looked like to the protesters that have been camping there. It looks like maybe some of them aren't even up right now. I mean, you do see a few on the side there. They have been pretty adamant that they are going to stand their ground. Just yesterday or the day before, we saw some of those agents handing them notices of eviction and the protesters tearing them up in their face. So this could be interesting to see how this plays out and if they do leave peacefully or if they continue to stand there. Just yesterday at the city council meeting, at least two of the city councilors spoke out against the ICE agents, and we're looking in to see if the city could do anything about this situation, because a couple of those councilors are supporting the protesters out there and have even been down there to visit them and thank them for protesting. Yeah,
what's interesting is that the email that we got from the Federal Protective Service just a few minutes ago says that the action would be initiated at 5:30. Now we're about 2 minutes out from there. I'm thinking maybe that the agents have given them until 5:30 to start making their move away. But you can see there are a lot of federal agents there. So this eviction looks like it will be happening sometime soon.
Yeah, we're going to stay on until 5:30, which is about a minute from now, and to see what happens. But again, this is in Southwest Portland on Macadam, and this has been going on for what, a week, 2 weeks now, as
Almost
far as
2
these
weeks,
protesters. Yeah, and it's just continued to grow as far as the amount of people camping down there, and we see some of them walking around. We tend to see more activity in the afternoon, I think, when they're all awake. But they were on that megaphone, so I'm sure they could hear that agent speaking with them as they're being told to leave. Again, they've been handed eviction notices twice this week that we know of, telling them they need to be gone from that area. Apparently it's on a city property, some of it. There's a walking trail or a bike trail that they're blocking.
The Willamette Greenway begins right around there, and the trolley tracks where the Willamette trolley runs are right next to that facility. So there is some city property that's there where some of the campers are, as well as federal property as well. This is right on the south end of South Waterfront as well. So there are a lot of residences not too far away from where that ICE facility is. And it's also near the entrance to the freeways off of Macadam Avenue as well. So this is a pretty well traveled route, and there are a lot of people who do live and work in that area.
Yeah, it looks like one of the protesters or the campers there has a megaphone of their own, and it looks like they're saying something to the agents.
Okay, it is 5:30 now, and you can see that those federal agents are starting to move in.
Yeah, if we could get some
doing a little goose step there as they come in. So obviously the demonstrators have been told that 5:30 is when they need to start moving out. And now they're starting to, the agents are starting to take down the structures and all of the tents that have been outside of that area.
Yeah, if we could get some sound, hear what's going on. I don't know if...
Yeah, we might not have the sound. We do have the video, though,
right.
And you can see that this action is happening right now. We knew that at some point that the feds would decide that, this encampment needed to come down, Occupy ICE. The demonstrators said, the protesters said that they would not be leaving, but now they're being forced out. They're being evicted.
Yeah, okay, now we can hear what's going on. That is like a goose step that they're...
Very organized. I don't really have a feel for how many agents are there, but at least a couple dozen, maybe several dozen. We don't know exactly because we can't account for all of the agents that are up on the building itself, and we saw a number of them as well as they oversee this.
It looks like they are methodically taking down those structures as they move closer and closer to the protesters.
And the tents.
Camping, yeah. You can see them in the back there, just tearing them down.
Now, this process will not take very long if they move at this pace, because a lot of those structures, as you know, are temporary. Mm-hmm. There are some wooden structures that were constructed during the course of the demonstration, but for right now, it looks like this will not take very long as they move in. And obviously, once the agents do this, then a lot of the demonstrators will leave on their own.
Right, because they do have their arrangements set up that are being taken down. It doesn't look like they're getting much resistance right now, just some of the protesters filming on their phones what's happening.
And we're looking for what agency is this? Are these all federal agents or are some of these Portland police?
Yeah, because as we mentioned, some of the Portland city council members are opposed to this happening and did not want Portland police involved. So,
and just looking at the communication again, these are federal law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. So Portland police apparently not involved in this. This is all federal law enforcement initiating the law enforcement action that began at 5:30 about 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, you can really tell they had a plan for how they were going to do this, and they have those extra officers on the ledge over them watching everything that's going on and all the moves. And again, we're not really seeing any resistance from the protesters. They're just filming what's happening as their camp is being taken down one tent at a time.
And just a little bit of background about what this facility is. This is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Facility in Southwest Portland off Macadam. And this is where immigration cases are processed, and a lot of people have hearings here who have immigration issues. There's also a small holding facility in that area where people are held before they go up to Tacoma, which is where the major facility here in the Northwest for immigration issues is.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this was all sparked a few weeks ago by immigrants coming over and being separated from their children, and a lot of them being taken to detention facilities around the country. And that was what kind of started off these protests that have just continued to grow across the country, including here in Portland. Okay, we're going to take the audio away because I think we were worried that some of it might have some profanity on there, which is an issue we've run into in the past couple of weeks with not only the audio, but some of the signage that we've been seeing.
All right, and you can see some of the demonstrators are, taking cell phone video of the officers, the federal officers there, as well as what is happening in terms of them taking down some of the structures. Now, it seems like those federal officers have stopped. They've begun their action. They started taking down some of the structures. You can see in the background in the left part of your screen that action is still going on, but we have another group of officers that are right here basically holding their ground as some of the structures behind them are being disassembled.
Yeah, and we see some of the protesters yelling at the officers as they move closer and closer to some of those structures. It looks like it is pretty methodical, though, how they are doing this and taking down the camp. We didn't know if this was going to happen today. We've been reporting on them giving out these eviction notices over the past week, but there was no sign up until about 20 minutes ago that this was even going to happen, until they sent out a release saying they were moving in at 5:30, and they were prompt. They exactly at 5:30 started moving in on these protesters and taking down those structures that have been out there and growing. That protest has been growing in the past few weeks. Again, it's Southwest Macadam, right near the highway there, and they have appeared to have stopped, at least temporarily.
Yeah, I believe that the cross street is Bancroft, Southwest Macadam and Bancroft, south end of the South Waterfront development, and right next to the Willamette trolley tracks, as well as the Willamette Greenway, which goes along the Willamette River towards Lake Oswego.
Yeah, old spaghetti.
The old Spaghetti Factory restaurant
is
right there.
Right.
So if you go east of where we're looking at right now, you would run into the old Spaghetti Factory.
Yeah, we haven't seen any movement in the past couple of minutes.
One of the questions is, if there are arrests, and we haven't seen any arrests yet, would those who are arrested be taken into federal custody, and where would they be held if they are indeed arrested? We haven't seen that. Not saying that that will happen, but that's one thing to consider as the morning progresses.
Right, because this does appear to be a mix of federal and city property that the protesters have been on. Because you mentioned that walking trail. We have Trevor Ault, actually, who is on scene right now. We want to go live to him for the latest on the situation. Trevor?
Oh, Ken and Jenny, good morning. What we have is certainly a very volatile situation unfolding in front of us. A number of officers, as we've been watching here on KOIN 6 News, these appear to be with the Department of Homeland Security. They have essentially at this point sort of cut off what is the entrance to the ICE building here, and then they've stopped. We know that this encampment then goes through what is a public bike trail. They seem to be stopping at that. They're working their way through what has been put up, these structures that are closer to the entrance, which would appear to be more definitively federal property. And right now, these DHS officers are in the street. You can see a number of people very upset with them walking down the line, screaming at them. Obviously, again, this is live television. You're going to be picking up some more vulgar language here. People very, very upset, and we're starting to see a few different more people streaming out of this camp. Again, they've been camped here, as we mentioned, for close to 2 weeks now. It doesn't appear that these officers are engaging any of these people that are yelling at them. They're kind of just staring forward at them, almost working more as a blockade than anything else. We haven't seen any type of arrest at this point. That's what we are keeping an eye on. Now, again, people here are a little bit volatile. At this point, they're kind of making pleas to me specifically as they are talking again on the purpose of this entire occupation here, which is that they are standing against ICE and the separation of families at the borders, talking about how outraged they are and that they think that the actions of the federal government are misplaced, that they are being targeted here instead of the number of immigrants or undocumented immigrants and families that have been separated here. Now, at this point, again, the federal government is just working on tearing down things in the background. You can kind of see that through this line of different federal officers here, Ken and Jenny. I haven't seen them make any movement forward in the past few minutes or so. Obviously, we'll be hanging out here as we watch this develop. I haven't seen any contact specifically between protesters and these federal agents, but that's something that we'll have to keep a close eye on, because we have seen these protesters, not necessarily these protesters specifically, but we've seen actions like this that can turn violent in a hurry, and we're going to be watching that very specifically. Ken and Jenny, we'll send
Trevor,
it back
not
to you.
to interrupt you, but we did see on some of the video behind you that there was at least one protester who was in zip ties, the plastic handcuff type zip ties. Don't know whether that person is being arrested or just detained, but we did see at least one instance of that in terms of contact between the federal officers and the demonstrators.
Okay, I definitely, okay, I will keep an eye out for that. Any person in a zip tie Right now, they appear to be almost in a standoff. The protesters are kind of approaching closer here and lining up, almost sort of getting as close as they can. Now, what will be interesting is that the federal officers behind them seem to be done tearing things down. They're moving some certain things over. They're still searching. You see the entrance to ICE has been open, but you kind of wonder what their next move is going to be. At this point, they haven't really made any threat or movement to go towards the camp itself. But once they've made their way through all of the debris that is a little bit closer to the entrance, they're going to have to do something. What that will be, we will have to wait and see, guys.
So you're saying that they've pretty much cleared out the part where that was blocking the entrance, but the rest of the camp remains at this point?
There's still a lot of, I guess you could call it debris. All of the structures that they had that were distinctly on the federal property, the entrance to the ICE building has been torn down. A lot of it is still on the ground, and some officers are sifting through, but the officers who were tearing things down now appear to be more kind of standing and waiting. Again, once the place where they had been camping is a little bit separate, a little bit more public property, because you have the bike trail that goes through here up to Southwest Moody. But yes, what I am saying is that the sort of the ICE building itself, they appear to have torn down the majority of those structures. Now they're taking down some of those signs.
Yeah.
Well, according to Robert Sperling, who's the director of communications, this is who we're getting the email from the Federal Protective Service. Their purpose was to reopen this federal facility. Now, I don't know if that also means that they want to take down the rest of the camp, but their major objective right now, their mission, is to reopen that facility and get it back to operating again.
Yeah, and that would appear to be the priority just based on the movement that they've had so far, Ken. You can kind of see in the background, if we could have my photographer, Adam, just sort of go towards the door behind, if you look over top of this line of federal agents. So there's the entrance into ICE. They're taking down a lot of the signage there, and they're holding these doors open. We've seen a few different officers making their way through. So if that is their priority, which again they've said it is to just get this building reopened, it's possible that they have really kind of come close to achieving that goal already. At this point, it would appear that rather than having all these officers here to sweep through what is the protest camp, they're more serving as a barricade to prevent these people from going up onto the federal property. Now, what happens next, obviously these people, you can see from their reaction to this, they are not pleased at all. So whether or not this barricade will stay, what will happen once they've decided that the entrance has been cleared up, we'll have to find out. We've seen a number of these protests play out, and it's very possible that something like this can escalate. At this point, it would appear now that a number of the protesters that are minorities are making pleas to federal officers that are minorities, basically asking them how they could be participating in actions like this. We're starting to see these protesters grow a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more emotional. And obviously this is something that they're passionate about, something that they have been protesting for a good 12, 11 days now. And again, there's only so much that we can broadcast to you on television. This is live as it's playing out. But it does serve to show the emotion of these people and the passion behind what they feel they're protesting, why they feel the need to make a stand. Ken and Jenny will be remaining out here. And as this continues to unfold, we'll be checking back in with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, Trevor, good job getting us that information, and we will continue to check in with you because we don't know how this is going to play out at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does appear, just from what we're looking at in terms of these live pictures, that they wanted to reopen the building again, and that the federal officers are now acting as a barrier to the entrance to make sure that there are no protesters around the entrance as they work to reopen that building.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.